G'day, hi, and welcome. Alright, it is jam night again. And let there be lights. There we go. They got high beams on there now. And, yeah, letting that kind of warm up. It's like, what are you doing to me? It's cold out. Alright, and lights out. So you won't be able to see me, just me doing my babble blogging. Not a little bit to talk about. Should be fun. I'm going to put my gloves on because it is crazy cold. And I'm going to set this up now. Just because one little complaint about my CRV is you can't see where the what's called all the settings for. All I know is all the way to the right is the defrost, but there you can't see them. There's no. It's not the buttons are not lit. Like the radio's lit, and you can see the radio in the dark, but you can't see your heating sources in the dark, which is not so good because that should be warm enough. And it's not so good because you're trying to adjust something. You want to defrost the windshield, but you also don't want to freeze to death. So it gets to the point where you have to figure out how to where you're at. So while you're driving, so it's not good that way. Although you should be able to do it instinctively, blindfolded. But I mean, whatever. All right, so another jam night. Now I started writing down all the songs that I've done to date. And I don't know how many weeks I've been at this. I guess I've been at this since I think the earliest video I got is July 16th, and maybe before that, whatever my first jam night was. And throw on some heat here a little bit. The car's not warmed up yet, so it's just if you try to put the heat on too early, it just fogs everything up. But bottom line is, these off my windshield. I've always been there 6 weeks, but I started looking at all the songs, and with the exception of maybe 2 weeks that I did the jam nights, I played 4 songs, not 3. There might have been one night I played just 3 songs, and the first violin night I did just 2 songs, and then last week I couldn't sneak in the 4th tune. So I'll try again today. I'll always try for a 4th song in there. Like it's 15 minutes or 4 songs, whatever comes first, right? And the thing is that you want to be you don't want to be that guy that this guy never gets off stage type of thing. I don't want to abuse my privilege of going up on stage, especially if it's a busy night and there's a whole bunch of other people that want to get up there. So I understand that angle of it. But I also understand, too, that, full heat. Sort of, kind of, not really. Okay, so, sorry, I get a little bit noisy there, but it's also a very cold night. It was snowing today, and there might be black ice out tonight, so you have to be very, very careful tonight. But I figured it's not so bad. The roads ain't too bad, so I'll do it tonight. But yeah, it's like you really don't want to be the guy that is, holding everybody up or like that. I'm not that kind of a guy anyway. I really don't believe in, being an asshole. I know not everybody there is there just to see me, so I can appreciate that. The other thing I can appreciate too is that, God, I really enjoy doing this. I can't wait till I actually get a full night gig to play, because when I do, I mean, that's going to be a fun time. That's going to be a lot of that's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty good experience. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that. Or snow, or what the heck just hit the windshield there, but yeah. But the goal tonight is is tonight I did not bring my guitar again. What I will do is, like last week, I will use the house guitar, which was that. It's probably going to be some sort of a Taylor, one way or another. That Taylor I played last week, I got to tell you guys, I don't know what model it is, but it was sweet. Really, 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 really nice guitar. Beautiful to play. Great action on it. But you know, when the sound guy's a professional musician, he's not gonna, you know, even his cheap guitars are going to be set up. Like my cheap guitars get set up. I don't believe in not, you know, it's like, okay, it's a cheap guitar, I'm not going to make it play the best I can. So if you don't know how to set it up, you know, you take it through your luthier, and there, I pronounced it right, luthier. I always call it Luther, but your luthier. Take them to your luthier, get it set up properly, and then the thing plays like a dream for the next 25 years. And you might have to get it set up periodically, but I keep harping on the importance of a proper setup and string tension on guitars, because guys, if you love playing, I don't care what kind of stringed instrument it is, if you have to force to play it, if you have to force to hold down the strings, whether it's a violin, whether it's a violin, a cello, a stand-up bass guitar, electric bass, it doesn't really matter. If you have to force really hard to play it, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, you're going to end up with tendinitis. I'm not telling you that just to scare you. I'm telling you that because I've talked to people that played really crappy guitars. You know, the type of guy that, well, I like my action high because it builds finger strength. Yeah, you're just going to give yourself tendinitis. No, make the guitar as easy to play as you possibly can. Lower it as much as you can without it buzzing. Sometimes you do like the action a little bit higher, but a little bit higher is like, we're talking like 10,000ths of an inch, you know, 1,000ths of an inch higher. You know what I mean? That, you know, just enough so that you can dig in under the string if you're, you know, a different type of player. But most of the time, a proper setup, you can go as low, almost as low as you want, and that'll do it. And when it does, you know, the guitar, I hate to use the term, but plays like butter. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what you want. So tonight, what I'm bringing out is, this will be the third violin, which is my beloved, loudest violin in the world, I'm sure. My Hornsteiner violin, the octave violin. However, I have regular violin strings on it, but I will introduce it as an octave violin, because that's what it is, essentially. They were a bit of an anomaly. You'd almost mistake them for a small child's viola. But they were an octave violin, so they're violin scale, but they use strings, not viola strings, but strings that are one full octave down from the violin tuning. So it puts you in the tuning of a viola, but it's not a viola. Viola strings are still a little bit heavy. The strings were designed so that the tensions were proper, so you weren't putting over-tensioned strings, viola strings on violin. But that said, that violin's built pretty darn heavy for that reason, that they are heavier gauge strings. Well, the gauge is the same, but the more meatier strings they're lower down, right? One full octave. But yeah, I have a little diddly that I'm going to play tonight. It should be fun. Then I was not able to work on the Queen song quite well enough yet. I got the first part of it down pretty damn good. And I won't tell you what song it is, because I want to leave that one kind of a bit as a surprise. But it will be really good when I nail it, you know. Tonight I have about 4 songs that I'm probably going to do. I'm anticipating only playing 1 violin song and two guitar songs. So tonight is either going to be Bon Jovi, Bruce Springsteen night, or a Eddie and the Cruisers and Guns N' Roses night. I don't know what night it's going to be, guys. I really don't know what it's going to be. But I was working on something today, and I was like, no, it wasn't Patience. It was something a little bit more uppity than that. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I played this live. The other option was ballad-wise. I got a Bon Jovi song. But if tonight's really hyper, the host tonight, I don't know what kind of guy he's going to be, but going with the normal theme, he's probably going to be like jazz, R&B, folk music. So it's probably going to be more mellow. But if Intergalactic Space Hippie shows up, and he's in front of me, the nice thing about him is that he brings in electric guitars, which are a little bit more raunchy, which means he sets me up to be a little bit more raunchy. The bad news is that he usually clears the bar on you, and then you got by the time the audience comes back, you're just getting off stage. So I got to try to avoid him if I can. If he's, I'd like to, like last week, I got put up early. Greg put me on the number 1 or number 2 spot right after Intergalactic Space Hippie. But I think it's because there was nobody there, so it was, well, this is the first guy, Richard did second. That's fine, but tonight I got to make sure I sign it in. Probably 3rd spot, 4th spot. Because again, the person ahead of you kind of sets the tone, right? But don't be afraid to do your own thing, even if it's different, because contrast is good as well. Meaning, if you're a little bit more raunchy or a little more mellow, like last week there was a lady named Devorah. You've probably seen her a couple of weeks ago on my Professional Canadian Beaver Walker channel with her, I'm assuming it's her husband, with the accordions. I can never think of the guy's name. He was there last week. Great guy. He was going to perform, but he didn't. And she was playing the drum while he was doing that, but she got up and sang and played guitar last week. And she was very quiet, very mellow. I think she sang one original song and 2 other songs. That Anna girl, she went up and did a duet with her. That was really cool. Did some backing vocals there. And yeah, it was all good. But she was a lot more mellow, so that might have been a little bit different. Oh no, sorry. It wasn't her after me. It was the guy with the other Ibanez was after me. The guy who accidentally kept unplugging himself. And got a good laugh at it. But, I'm sure, it was like anything. These things happen. But it was like he was playing, and he was blues, rockabilly. Well, I wouldn't say rockabilly. I don't think that would be a fair assessment of the style. But it almost gave you more like I just can't say a Johnny Cash type of feel, but a little bit more kind of like, well, definitely blues. It's definitely blues. But blues, classic 50s rock in that kind of genre. And he was really good, except for he kept accidentally unplugging himself. But he was also a guy that was used to playing with a full band, and like he said, this was the first time he played by himself, live. And there, that whole bag of bolts that comes with that, where you got to kind of fill the. And that's maybe why I'm more raunchy live too. I think what happens with a lot of players is, like, for example, many of these R&B people probably and folk people have probably never jammed in a band, like never really played in a band before, and that's going to change. They're all fogged up. They took out the curb. This thing turns so short, I nearly took out the curb there. It's like, you go to turn slightly and you'll do a U in this thing if you're not careful. It's such a short wheelbase. I love it. But anyway, so he was doing all that stuff, and it was really good, but it really was more hyper, kind of like what I play, just a different genre. But you could tell that he's a guy that was trying to fill in where the bass solo would have been. He's trying to fill in where the drum, if there would be a fiddle player or a mandolin player or whoever, try to fill in those spots himself on the guitar. And that's something I do. I call it the Jimi Hendrix theory, where you make the actual solo the rhythm. Oh, fire guys are out. I can't see them, but I know they heard me. Don't worry, they like it. I'm pretty sure next time I say, Reg, you honk that damn horn one more time, I'm going to punch you in the face. But yeah, anyway. Windshield clean now. But anyway, yeah, it's one of those things that when we play live in a band, we can loosen up a lot more because we don't have to do as much, right? When you're a guitar player, like for example, let's say you're like Eddie Van Halen or Paul Gilbert or somebody like that, you go and you play and you've got Billy Sheehan there covering you, okay, and he does a good job of filling up the holes where a rhythm guitar player would be. So he's like a bass player that plays rhythm guitar, you know what I mean, and bass line at the same time. So he's doing a lot of jobs that you can't do. So when you rip away on the solo, there's no hole in the song. This is the problem I have with these bands, like say like Dokken, Van Halen, Mr. Big, is when they're in the studio, they've always got a rhythm guitar behind the solo. But live, they can't do it. Another guy, again, it's not that I don't like the players. I love the players. It's just, when you see them live, they have to change it up because they can't get away with the three-part guitar harmony, unless it's an effect that they can get away with. But it's one of those things that they just can't hold the song together the way it's meant to hold together, playing it like that. And the whole thing about that is that that's good, nifty, and dandy and all if you don't have to worry about the holes in the song. You let loose. So when you have a good two guitar player band, it works well. One guitar player that I always found interesting, he might not be the most technical guitar player, but I always loved his style, was Billy Duffy from The Cult. His music is interesting because they do like 100 versions of every song they do. Like there's about 1,000 versions of Sanctuary that they recorded. Stuff like that. You know, Little Devil, whatever it is, or Love Removal Machine, whichever, all those popular songs that they did. Sweet Soul Sister, you know, Edie, whatever it is. And he always does something a little bit different because he's the single guitar player in the band and there's no rhythm guitar player there. So he has to kind of hold things together. Now, his solos are a lot like Hendrix in a lot of ways, where they're more of a theme than an actual balls-out guitar solo that just, cranks out, you know, like just, you know, shredding for the sake of shredding. So he tends to do a little bit of shredding, but there's always something holding the rhythm together. So in other words, he's a phenomenal rhythm player that has lead abilities. And I respect that because he could probably do more solo-wise, but he doesn't overdo it. Another guy that's really great is Neil Skolnick from Journey. Like, he's fantastic. And he was like, I was listening to an interview with him one time, and he summed it up quite well. He goes, I could do a lot more live, but then it falls apart. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Sometimes he goes, like when I shred, people like it, but he says, when I just do these little themes, like these simple little licks that he does and dials back a bit, he says they become memorable, but people love it. You know, they like the shredding, but they love that you know, they'll hum the solo, you know what I mean? You know, and it's always simple 3-4 little notes in the solo, and so it's simplified. So, yeah, for a guitar player, they always want to show, but we're all a bunch of show-offs. They get that, and we like to do our parlor tricks on stage, just to, you know, say, look how well I play. And I appreciate that holding back a bit. Paul Gilbert, over the years, he's held back. He's really dialed it back because, like, you know, there's more to life than just shredding. Said no one ever, but when Paul Gilbert says it, that's okay because it's Paul Gilbert, right? I mean, he's the master of shredding. And the thing about that is that he's kind of taken a different take on his playing. It's still technical and very challenging and very hard, but it has more feel to it, you know? And that's important too, because feel is what really gives you a song. It's what makes the song resonate with people. Technical abilities are only part of it. Most people can't get into really technical, like Dream Theater type stuff, unless they're musicians, or Rush. Even Rush, like a lot of their older stuff is really simple. but it was complex for the day, all these little time changes and everything like that. And it gets to the point where a lot of people, they can't get into it because it doesn't just hold a very basic 4/4 pattern the whole way through the song, right? And yeah, it's nice to change it up, but that's why people can always get into like old time 3-chord rock and roll. That's why Johnny B. Good is still a hit, you know what I mean? Because it's a really predictable form, and that predictable form is what makes people get into it a lot easier, because they don't have to anticipate anything new. They could just relax and get comfortable into that 4/4 3-chord rock stuff, right? And that works too. Like, I mean, AC/DC, like Angus, he shreds the crap out of his guitar on the guitar solos. It's just he does it in, pentatonic scale, all the time, the old blues scales. It's all blue. It's just sped up blues scales. That's all he's doing, right? And then he just thrashes it, like, okay, well, instead of just playing a solo on one string, I'll hit 3, and just make more noise. More noise sounds like more ability, but it fills in. And that's why everybody likes Angus Young. Why? Because the rhythm guitar is just 3-chord rock. You know what I mean? There's very rarely, whatever the song starts off with, there's very rarely much deviation in an AC/DC song. It's usually the same 3 chords over and over for the verse, same 3 chords over for the chorus, with some, some stuff, and then some sort of sped up bluesy, string thrashing, rock shredding thing. When you put it all together, what is it? Awesome. Rocks your face off. Well, it doesn't get better than that, right? That's why everybody loves AC/DC. That's why I still love AC/DC. I think Angus Young is a phenomenal guitar player for the beauty and the simplicity, and the fact that, his little riffs are cool. His riffs are not only cool, but they're memorable as hell, and they're usually quite simple. Whether they're a power riff or some sort of, really noted out little riff. For example, Beginning of Shook Me All Night Long. Everybody loves that. That is a very hard song to play by yourself. You can do it, but it's one of those songs that's been played to death too. But you can do it, but you have to really rethink about what happens when the solo gets there. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to be able to wail on the solo. You got to keep the rhythm going. But Rocker, for example, you can go all over the place. You can change that song into whatever you want. For those about the rock, same thing. You can just shred the crap out of it if you want, or you can just play it as an acoustic too. The Chat, or Whole Lotta Rosie, all those songs are great songs. They're simple. You can make them as simple as you want, or you can just, shred the crap over the top of them. You can do Ingve stuff over AC/DC tunes. It's really, really awesome that you get that. Why? Less is more. Now, I got to talk about what is his name. I think if I get his name wrong and you search and you don't find the guy, you'll know him if you see him. It's an Asian guy that plays violin. I've only discovered his channel. Well, I might have seen it in one of his videos years ago, but this guy plays violin. Now, he does Paganini stuff, but he does what I call the parlor trick. He's a younger guy. I can totally relate to his stage presence. I'm not as good as him on the violin by any stretch of the imagination, but I really like his performances, because he tries to encapsulate that Paganini rock star, decadent, kind of larger than life kind of in his playing, where he plays something, but he does it in such an eccentric way that you will remember seeing this guy play. So, for example, I think his name is Michael Kim, Kim. He's an Asian guy, and he did a duet with this piano. Now, I know who he's ripping off when I'm listening to him, because I've been listening to a lot of classical violin in the past little while. well, not a little while, but for a long time. So when I hear the Paganini parlor tricks come out, I know what he's doing. But he just, like I say, it's the same parlor trick. He's just doing it in a different spot, so it sounds like something new. It's what I do all the time. When you watch somebody for a while, you'll say, okay, you can only anticipate what their guitar solo is going to be like unless they worked out something really extravagant. When I'm doing these jam nights, I do the train wrecks at the end of the songs. I do all that stuff, and I do it in such a way that whatever the key's in, if the song's in the key of D, well, you're going to get a thrashing on all the spot, all the D's on the neck near the end of the song. If it's in E, it's all going to be all E stuff. It's going to be, I'm going to keep it simple like that because it works and it's a no-brainer. You can, it's a parlor trick. It's the thrashing parlor trick. Makes it look like you're doing all this fancy new stuff, but really, from one song to the next, you're really not doing anything different. You're just doing it in a different spot on the neck, which makes it come off as something spectacularly new. I tell people, see you a few times, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what he does. But anyway, I'm watching this guy playing his violin. He does his parlor tricks, which are, when I mean parlor tricks, I'm not saying they suck. I'm saying, no, these are really spectacular little bits that they're throwing in that razzle-dazzles everybody. And it does take a lot of talent to do. This guy has phenomenal playing talent. Don't take what I say as a down thing. No, parlor tricks, if you're a musician, you want to learn the parlor tricks. Why? Because that's what's going to captivate your audience. It's just, we're all being disingenuous con artists when we do it, but it's for the greater good of the show and everybody enjoys it. No harm, no foul, right? So he starts doing all these Paganini style parlor tricks in his own tune, and they're really good. And it's like, okay, well, he just changed the mode or the scale or whatever, but it's the same thing as Paganini's 24th, Paganini's 5th, Paganini's 1st, right? So he's doing all those parlor tricks that you would get out of that. And what ends up happening at the end of it, big old tractor trailer going by here. I should have honked at him. Drove off the road with my little horn. If my battery could take a tractor trailer horn in this little CRV, I'd put one in. I'd put in a spare battery just for that purpose. Why? Because I'm that guy. I'm that guy. Yeah, I'm that guy that has to be that disruptive. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you have a tractor trailer with a big foghorn on it, but I got a CRV with a foghorn on it. How do you like me now? You know what I mean? Scare the crap out of everybody. You know what I mean? Why? Because I can. Mind you, the horn on this thing is pretty good. It's worth the $400 I paid for this portable vehicle. But anyway, like I was saying, so he starts playing, and it's maybe about the last minute of the tune. The whole piece, I think, is between 6 and 9 minutes long with the piano, and it just goes all over the place. I mean, the guy's basically showboating his entire abilities, but with good themes and stuff like that. With parlor tricks thrown in between to keep the themes there. So will he become the next Mozart or Beethoven? To stand out in this day and age in anything with the 8 billion people on the planet, you got to be pretty spectacular and great promotion, right? So maybe yes, maybe no, but definitely whoever gets to capture his performances are definitely in for a treat. So right near the end of it, he does this really cool harmonic thing that I know about, but I haven't really practiced, and he's doing harmonic arpeggios on the string. It's where you play the string with the violin, but you don't press down on the string. You just slightly touch it with your finger, and it gives it almost like a flute-like sound. So it's really fluty, chimey, magical kind of sound, and kind of faint and eerie at the same time. He's doing all these little arpeggios with it. And then he goes into like this kind of thrashing with the bow. You know, like, it goes like, and then he starts plucking phenomenal, what they call pizzicato, staccato. He's doing all that. One's with the bow, one's without the bow. But he does a little bit of pizzicato where you're just plucking the string, and then staccato and whatever, where you're striking it with the bow as you pluck. You get two slightly different sounds out of it, but it's like it's the ultimate violin trick to do, and it blows people away when they see it. So he does kind of like what the Paganini thing, the Paganini's 24th Caprice. It's a variation of that, and you recognize it right away. You know that's the parlor trick he's pulling out, but it's still great. But then right after that, he puts his bow aside, or holds his bow aside, grabs the violin, and then starts plucking the notes with his teeth, like the way Jimi Hendrix would play the guitar with the pick in his mouth. Now that parlor trick I used to do all the times when I used to do Hey Joe or whatever. I'd always grab the guitar and put the pick in my mouth and start playing it. And trust me, Jeff Healey did it. Jimi Hendrix, I don't know if he was the first one to do it. Maybe it was Chuck Berry. I mean, Jimi Hendrix stole his parlor tricks from other people too, you know. Like all the guys, Robert Johnson, all those guys. He was a big fan of those guys, and he often recounted how they inspired him to do these bizarre things on stage, particularly Chuck Berry, you know, with the chicken walk and stuff like that. But he couldn't really just steal that because they would know who you're stealing from, right? So there's a way to, George Thorogood does this on stage, but he does a weird little leg kick thing while he kind of hops backwards on it. That became his own, so it's his spin-off of Chuck Berry's chicken walk, you know what I mean? Yeah, people remember. Sometimes people will remember people for the antics more than they will even remember them for the song. You know, I talked in a previous video about Kim Mitchell, where if you ever seen the video Rock and Roll Duty, great song, where, you know, halfway through the song the mic gets unplugged or something, you know, power short out or whatever. Well, that happened to him on stage, and then he incorporated it into the act. So every time you see him, and I've seen him like 4 times, so it's like they cut the power on him and then he pretends to sneak off stage, and it's just really, really funny. But if you've seen him before, you know, okay, good gag, you know, it's a good gag, and he just sticks with it, right? No follow with that. But if you've never seen it before, it's the most hilarious thing to watch. Great performance. Max Webster, his keyboard piano player, he gets to belt out a couple of tunes. What a phenomenal musician. But yet Max Webster, who's definitely got a better vocal abilities than Kim Mitchell, his solo act never went anywhere. I don't know why, because Kim Mitchell's the fun party guy, you know what I mean? And they bring something to the table. So with the violin stuff, I'm not bringing too much to the table right now because I'm not good enough to really exploit the mastery of the parlor trick, right? I'm going to shut my heat off now. It's very important my hands stay warm. You know, it's nothing worse than going on stage with cold hands. Like, you just can't feel the strings, and you're all sloppy, and then everybody thinks you suck. But you get what I'm getting at. Like, performance, when you are on stage, you are a performer first. You're an entertainer first, right? And a lot of people don't understand that. Lindsey Sterling. Who doesn't love the adorable Lindsey Sterling, right? The first time you see this little kid come out playing her violin, doing all the ballet moves and stuff like that, okay, she spiced it up a little bit too much too soon at that age, but is what it is, right? Now it's all just a part of the act. But look at the violin. She's probably the most inspirational violinist on the planet in the modern age right now. Maybe yes, maybe no, but I don't know any other electric violinist out there that is more popular than Lindsey Sterling. Mark Woods, the voodoo violinist, with his Viper violins. They're really cool. They started like at $1,000 a piece, but Flying V violins. This guy was a metalhead guitar player and started shredding on a violin. He put guitar strings on a violin, then he started building his own. Really cool stuff. And that guy, okay, yeah, he's an inspiration for a lot of people because he did something really, you know, bizarre and out there. It's like, ooh, voodoo violinist. This guy's like a metalhead violin player, right? And he is a very good player. But he's no Lindsey Sterling, and he's been at it he's probably 3 times the age of Lindsey Sterling. I don't know how old she is, probably in her early 20s or whatever. by now. But the thing is what made them popular? Well, Lindsey Stirling has a couple things going for it. Number one, very pretty face. Number two, very unique way of presenting the violin. Number three, youth. Youth is a thing. Youth does sell. I'm not talking about it in a sexual sense or anything like that, but it's just Mark Wood, being probably in his late 50s, early 60s now, is not going to resonate with 12-year-old girls the way Lindsey Stirling will. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it's whereas, okay, yeah, a 12-year-old boy that's a metalhead will like Mark Wood because, oh yeah, it's metal, but they don't, they're not judging him on anything other than the cool sounding violin, you know what I mean? The metalhead violin. That's all they're judging him on. But Lindsey Stirling has the dance. So all the people that are into dance music, well, they see this girl playing violin and dancing, showcases not one but two talents, and she is very talented, there's no doubt about that. I don't know a lot of her tunes, but from what I've seen, I'm like, cool, very cool stuff. But I would love to just hear her play an acoustic violin, no background track whatsoever, just to see what her abilities are. That's what I want to see. A lot of her stuff isn't really that phenomenally complicated to play. It's very drawn out and slow and melodic and everything like that. The tunes will stick in your head, whatever. But I would liken her to like a female Joe Satriani, where Joe Satriani, the first time I heard Surfing with the Alien, it blew my freaking mind. I had never heard what planet did this man come from? The first time I heard Always With Me, Always With You, a song I desperately want to play live on the electric with a backing guitar or whatever. There's just no way to play it that I know. Even fingerstyle, I don't know if you could pull it off. But it's a song that, it almost brings tears to your eyes the first time you hear it. It's so beautiful. It's like those chords are angelic, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, where did that come from? And then, like Satch Boogie and all that cool stuff. Okay, that's really cool stuff, Then Steve Vai for The Love of God. What a wonderful tune. I got to see him play that live with the double harp guitar. I got Steve Vai's autograph on a $2 bill, a Canadian $2 bill. Doesn't exist. $2 bills don't exist anymore, but I think it shows you my age. A friend of mine, he got the autograph for me. The only thing he had in his pocket that Steve Vai could sign was a $2 bill, and he did that for me. He goes, here's $2. And I'm like, who scribbled on it? He goes, Steve did. Steve who? Steve Vai. No kidding! And I still have it. Thank you, Pablo. Him and I were best friends. It was big of him he knew how much of a Steve Vai nut I was when Steve Vai really started to with Passion and Warfare and stuff like that. These guys, they're going to be remembered for a long time, but there's still a lot of people that don't know who they are. But when they discover them, holy geez, wow, what an inspiration. So maybe sometimes these guys might, maybe nobody knew who Paganini was in his day just because, there was no internet. Unless you were in a tavern where Paganini showed up, you might have heard of a guy in a local area, but you probably wouldn't know who he was. You know what I mean? Somebody like 2 towns away would never have heard of him. But he wrote down his music, and then somebody discovered it. It's like, who the hell was this guy? Was he the devil? What? How do you play like that? It's the ultimate in mastery of the violin is to play Paganini. Yes, there are pieces out there that are probably more challenging than Paganini pieces. The first Caprice, the 5th, and the 24th, the 11th one. They're probably more challenging than that, but not too many are more challenging than Paganini. That is really the ultimate ability, especially the 24th Caprice. You use everything. You use every technique you could possibly, every parlor trick you need to know for that one. So if you can master that one, you can pretty much do anything. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The other thing that's really cool is next week I'm going to be bringing out my electric violin. Hopefully all goes well with that. The battery doesn't die on me or whatever. And I'm playing and singing. I'm trying to find songs that I can play the violin and sing at the same time. Why? Because it's different. I thought I did really well with the Rubens Train one. And the mics that were on stage really helped out too. That was those the quartet, the four-post quartet or whatever they were called. Yeah, it was their mics. Those were great sound mics, sound stage mics. There's different type of microphones on. Like there's, I don't know, like hundreds of different type of microphones out there for different applications. But a sound stage mic is just something a little bit different. Most of the time they're unidirectional, but sometimes they can be omnidirectional as well. Where if you were to say, buy me one microphone that can do everything, I would say what I got, the legendary Shure SM58. Jack of all trades, master of none. But it's a pretty good all-around mic. The first few generations not so great, but they work. They work. They were a $50 mic when they came in on the market. They've been around forever and a day. Almost every place you go has an SM58. Just because when in doubt, you go with the SM58. You know. And mic technology has come along so far in this day and age that it's really mind-boggling trying to choose a mic. And it's like, well, why do I choose this mic over that mic? You know, is there something out there better? You know, is this $500 mic as good as? You know, or like for example, have you ever seen somebody try to sing through percussion mics? Disaster. Because if you ain't right on that thing, it's a unidirectional mic. A lot of times, and it's a high percussion mic, so it's like you got no volume out of it, right? Or they go buy the $20 or $10, bulk store mic and go on stage with it, and it's like microphobia, just starts squealing and howling. There's just no way to filter the darn thing. It just won't take the impedance, right? So yeah, there's those things too that you got to factor in. Mics they're an instrument, and a lot of people don't realize that. You have your own mic at home, right? Then you go into a jam night, you sing through a different mic. You don't sound the same. I don't sound the same at the cafe as I do at home. I think my mic's better than the ones that are at the cafe. Maybe they're just a little more worn out. Yes, there's a different room, there's a different PA. The ones there are definitely louder. The sound doesn't come back to you quite as easy as it does in my small little room. But I'm definitely getting used to that. But the big one with those ones is that the dynamics are a little bit different too. And because the dynamics on those mics are a little bit different, it's one of those things where, okay, great. How do I utilize it? You know what I mean? And again, the sound man has everything. Plus, the sound man will adjust the mic however he adjusts the mic. You might not necessarily adjust the mic the same way he does. All those things, they do kind of play in. After a while, you start to realize, oh, okay, I get it now that you have to do this, and this to get that, and that, whatever out of this guy or girl, whoever's singing. So sometimes it takes the sound man. It's like, okay, last time we played, I could barely hear him. He has no mids in his voice. I tend to don't have a lot of mid in my voice. I have a little bit of highs and mostly lows. But that's right. There's curve here. But at the end of the day, it's like sorry if you guys just went for a little bit of a ride there. But it's like I'm at the cliff face part of the wall along the river here. Great for a sports car, but when you come in that one a little bit, not too hot there on this thing. I don't drive too fast with this thing. When you come in a little bit too hot on that corner, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it kind of angles back a bit. It's like, oh yeah. Don't crash into the freaking cliff, the rock wall. Don't crash into the rock wall. Anyway, like I was saying, it's one of those things where if you are learning how to use the mic, you're playing the jam night guitar, you're doing all these things that it's like, okay, well, number one, I'm not used to that guitar. It distracts you a little bit. So if you're going to be using a jam night guitar, maybe don't belt out your masterpiece on the first night, because you're probably not going to be familiar enough with that guitar. Maybe you will be, maybe not. You can try it if you feel comfortable, but you might not be. Give the guitar a neck just a one glance over before you start playing, just so you get a visual mindset of where everything is. Because most things can be done by muscle memory anyway. But it depends what you're playing, right? If it's like 3 chords or whatever, just a bunch of chords, that stuff is usually, you can do that on any guitar, no problem. So you don't have to worry. But if you're doing a lot of, say like Jimmy Page style playing, where you're doing a lot of riffs and stuff, you got to kind of know the guitar a bit to do it comfortably, so you don't sound so sloppy, right? So there's that too. But the other thing you can do is, while you're doing that, is especially with the acoustic, is maybe dial down the acoustic a little bit more, and allow your vocals to pop out a little bit more until you get used to playing with both. Because most of the time, the guitars usually drowns out the vocals if the mic is not adjusted right. So you can do this through dynamic playing, and just play softer or whatever. You can also do this by just lowering the volume. All kinds of stuff like that. Most of the time with the jam night guitar, the guitar itself never gets adjusted. It's all done at the soundboard. So the guy who knows the guitar the best, the owner usually, puts the guitar on stage. Then what he does is he'll set the EQ to whatever, the volume to whatever, and it stays there, and then he works around that rather than people playing around with everything on the stage. Then every time the next guy comes up, you don't know what it's adjusted for, and you got to readjust everything again. A lot of times, once you get the guitar slightly honed in for the sound man, the guitar setting is done. It's just, okay, is this loud enough for you, or is that too loud, is it not loud enough, whatever. He doesn't have to adjust the tone, the mid, the EQ, that part. It's just, volume. And when you get to that, it makes it easier for him. It also makes it easier for you. You might not realize it, but it will. So that's a good thing. But as of after next week, I will have the violin. And after the violin, I will be back to the guitar again. Unless it goes like incredibly well with the violin, that it's like, okay, yeah, that's the, I got to learn a few more tunes and bring it out. I might do that too if I can pull it off. Again, there's all these things that you can do live that it just, it's like, okay, well, this goes over really well. Well, maybe I'll do that, do that again, or whether it's play the same song, or bring in something else that captures the audience. For example, as soon as I'm able to afford another mandolin, I'm buying another mandolin, because I know the mandolin the mandolin never fails. You play and sing the mandolin at the same time. The genre of music almost does not matter. It's just people are not used to hearing a mandolin, and it's really fresh and unique for them. And even you think, okay, well, yeah, but it doesn't have the drive of the acoustic guitar. I don't know if you could get away playing a 3-hour night with a mandolin, playing and singing, because it is a pretty high-pitched instrument. But then again, you might, if people are enjoying it, they're enjoying it. It's what I call a brilliant sound instrument, where it's very bright, it has enough drive behind it and energy and all that, but what it lacks is the bottom end, right? It's a mid-range instrument. It's not it's a mid-upper end instrument. It's a tenor instrument, tenor or alto. But anyway, it's in that range. It's a higher pitch. So you don't get the drive you get out of the acoustic. The acoustic 6-string guitar or even 12-string guitar has the magic that you can always capo it to make it sound like a mandolin, to get a higher pitch out of it. But you can never lower the mandolin to sound like an acoustic guitar, to get the drive out of it, So that's why most people stick with the guitar. It's such a it's such a well-rounded instrument in the sense that you just, what can't you do on it? You know what I mean? It's a very, you know, that's why that instrument stood out over the bouzouki or the, what do they call the Russian mandolin there? I forget what they call it. It's only got like 3 strings on it. It's really cool. I'd like to get one. But again, you'd have to, you know, you can do things that are unique, but you have to change up things to fit what you're doing. You know what I mean? Okay. Taking a stroll. Everybody's got scarves on, so it was snowing today. So hopefully it's not too terrifying going back home. But it's going to be a cool night. It's going to be in the minuses, so hopefully I don't end up stuck in the parking lot either with a dead battery or something like that. God forbid. It'll be a cold night sleeping in this thing. Plus, my dad would probably worry too. So, yeah, it's what it is. I'm in the lovely town of Wakefield again. I am looking forward to playing tonight. Hopefully, everything goes extremely well. We've got dart nights here at the Black Sheep Inn. The bigger the crowd at dart night, the bigger the crowd there's going to be at Cafe 1870. But they play till 9 or 10. I can't remember what time they played till. 10, I think. So we start at 9 here. And whatever. But anyway, I have the Hornsteiner violin with me. I think this one's going to be a really cool, I got a short little piece. I'm not trying to torture people too much with my lousy violin playing. But I do get compliments on it in the sense of, hey, what's this? We got 8 seconds here. Oh, they got construction everywhere. Sorry, buddy. Can I get in here? Yeah, I can. They got construction next door. I don't know what they're building. Oh, and I took my parking spot. Oh, no, they didn't. No. Right over here. So I'll do. Try not to hit anything this time. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to shut that down. Make sure everything is off because I don't want a dead battery. So I'm here and I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a great night. So hope you guys have a great night. I'll let you know how this goes. And of course, keep watching the footage. You'll see all the great musicians that, you know, go up on stage and everything like that. So always a lot of fun. Anyway, you guys have yourselves a great night, eh?